I watched a homemade documentary about New York in the days after the September 11 attacks. I was struck by how normal the city looked back then, even though I can still remember the half-stifled panic, sadness, and dread we all felt as the burnt oven smell of dustified buildings and bodies lingered in the air. The head of the Environmental Protection Agency, Christine Todd Whitman, told New Yorkers the air was safe to breathe at ground zero, so we could all get back to work.
We're going to make sure everybody's safe.
God only knows how many people ended up with cancer or chronic lung disease because of that blatant falsehood. But now we're faced with the opposite problem. The lies used to justify the coronavirus lockdowns have transformed New York from a once thriving metropolis into a fiscally gutted urban hellscape that wouldn't look out of place in a David Lynch film.
I was thinking,
yes,
we sure are living through interesting times.
6 months was all it took to put over 6,000 restaurants out of business, while jacking up the citywide bankruptcy rate by over 40% and spiking the number of burglaries and shootings by over 100%. The steep decline in tourism and the budget cuts to public services have affected nearly everyone. In some of the poorer neighborhoods, garbage removal has fallen so far behind that Governor Cuomo has threatened to call in the National Guard to help clean things up. The city's more affluent residents are also forgoing their usual activities. The new upscale Hudson Yards Mall is so bereft of foot traffic that every retailer there must be wishing they'd never made commitments to it. There aren't enough rich people around anymore to haul off their luxe junk. Our dysfunctional Congress pushed everyone off the fiscal cliff at the end of July by failing to come up with a viable plan to mitigate the economic damage caused by the pandemic. At the time, New York City had about 800,000 people unemployed out of a total labor force of 4 million. That's a 20% unemployment rate for those of you who aren't quick at math. Our city experienced a staggering 464% increase in unemployment from January to July. We were also hit with a far higher COVID-19 death rate per capita than any other city in the nation. And while all that was going on, President Trump was threatening to pull $7 billion in federal funding from New York City, alleging that it had become a lawless zone for anarchists. New Yorkers have always seen Trump as a grifter and a bullying, Cheetos-face powdered clown. He showed his true colors once again by turning the September 29th presidential debate into a national cringe fest.
that was a hot mess inside a dumpster fire, inside a train wreck.
Or what CNN's Dana Bash demurely described as
It's a shit show.
So here we are at the propaganda-blasted end of the Anglo-American Empire. Our so-called democracy has started eating itself, like the Ouroboros, thanks to late-stage capitalism's regulatory capture schemes and predatory lending practices, which can only result in the eventual collapse of civic society. Until that happens, intentionally outrageous spectacles and fear-porn mass programming will be used to distract us from all the kleptocratic looting. Get ready for the next scary bioweapon release, likely to be blamed on fanatical white supremacists or Iranian flying death robots. The predator class seems to believe we're all too stupefied, medicated, fluoridated, and entrained by fake news to be able to connect the dots.
I can't believe I ate that whole thing.
You ate it, Ralph.
Maybe they're right. I'm continually amazed by the millions of face mask-wearing solid citizens who accept and obey what they've been told by provably corrupt politicians and profiteering medical experts like Bill Gates, Deborah Birx, and Dr. Fauci in regard to a virus that's easily treated if you can access banned drugs like hydroxychloroquine
Give it to the people.
and won't even faze 99% of the population. Dr. Fauci, in particular, should be locked away in prison for his sly funding of the outlawed gain-of-function studies on bat coronaviruses in Wuhan. Instead, he's the richly rewarded frontman in a pre-planned campaign of bioterrorism and mass murder designed to implement a techno-fascist global control system through the use of mandatory vaccine injections and their accompanying quantum dot biomarkers, which could be used for agendas so evil that they might end up making Auschwitz tattoos look like beauty marks. Are you starting to get the feeling, like I am, that the world doesn't belong to people of goodwill anymore? Not that it ever really did.